On August 11, 2021, Picogram and Rose City Games released Garden Story on the Nintendo Switch and Steam out of nowhere after a Nintendo Indie Games Direct presentation, which caught some off guard. Basically, imagine the Legend of Zelda series merged together with Stardew Valley. Is this the next Smash indie game hit like Shovel Knight or Hollow Knight? And is it worth the investment and grind to restore the grove to its former glory? Well, I'm going to explain my experience with this game, and hopefully it will help you, the viewer, decide if Garden Story is worth the investment. But before we begin, real quick, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't to see more content like top 5s and top 10s and video game reviews where I share my honest opinion and overall thoughts to help viewers like you decide if these video games are worth playing or not. Okay, let's start the review. You play as a young grape named Concord who becomes a guardian and must protect the grove from the rot, the main enemies in this game that have threatened the lives of many of its inhabitants who live in the grove. You must help your people by completing main story quests, side quests, and completing daily chores like gathering enough resources or hammering in broken fences, planting garden seeds, collecting resources and in-game currency to upgrade your weapons and items. You will meet many charming characters along your adventure and eventually work together as a community to overcome the harsh and difficult times ahead. The game's story, while not the best action-adventure game story out there, still had its moments of charm and felt very heartwarming at times, and was overall a great, cozy, relaxing adventure. Think of Zelda's top-down overhead action combat, heavy focus gameplay with a bit of secret mana mechanics such as having a stamina bar which represents how many times you can attack an enemy before depleting the stamina meter completely, which won't let you attack unless the stamina meter fills right back up. And mix that in with Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley with its gameplay mechanics of collecting resources in order to upgrade your weapons and items, or helping villagers out by completing certain quests and side stories, and collecting resources for them as well, which will level up the ranks of certain areas and communities within the grove, thus getting closer and closer to saving the grove itself. The game is meant to be played at a slow pace, enjoying the different communities, talking to the different inhabitants, breaking things and picking up its leftover resources, which you can then use to level up certain weapons so that you deal more damage, or to increase other items such as upgrading a shield to block incoming attacks, or upgrading how many healing dews you can store inside your bottles in case your health runs low. Or you can use these resources for other means like completing side quests or daily activities, which helps your community gain levels by ranking them up. But if you aren't the slow, relaxing type of gamer and want the more action-heavy experience, then you can play the game just for its story as well, which I enjoyed more as I just wanted to experience its main campaign and see what the game had to offer for a single-player experience. I was expecting to be disappointed, however the opposite effect had occurred when I realized that there's more to this game the more you progress further and further. You can unlock new weapons, which helps you deal with different types of rots. For example, one rot will have a bunch of hay stacked onto its head, making it impossible to hit it with the sword. But if you equip a sickle, then you can easily destroy it. There are certain enemies that have sea cells, which you can only damage by exploding their weaknesses by removing their shells using a fishing rod, which you can also use to fish out other resources such as money or other items that you need in order to upgrade your gear, which I appreciated because it did change the pace of combat and required me to take out an enemy in a different way instead of just using a sword and mindlessly just hacking and slashing away. I didn't mind using the keyboard once I customized the controls to my liking, but playing with the controller would have been way smoother, and it's sad that the PC version on Steam doesn't have full controller support. At least, it didn't for my PlayStation 5 controller, but other than that, it's easy to adapt to when using just the keyboard. You can also make combat smoother by assigning shortcuts to each weapon so that you can switch up your combat style on the fly, especially when you are surrounded by enemies and each one has a different weakness to a certain weapon type. I do have to say that They could have done better with the enemy variety here, as the rot didn't really stand out to me and it just got boring killing the same enemies over and over again, and usually the enemy patterns become way too predictable. Later on in the game, most of the old enemies just get a color swap, which is really disappointing. The real challenge came from exploring the Zelda-like dungeons, which I did not expect at all, and thoroughly increased the enjoyment of playing this game, as I am a huge Zelda fan, and this felt like coming home after not playing a Zelda game for a very long time. But that enjoyment I was feeling was quickly gone, as I realized that the dungeons in this game are nothing to write home about. They were very short and, they were short-lived, and the puzzles did not challenge me as a veteran Zelda fan. The boss fights were fun to go up against and defeat, as they did provide a challenge for the most part, as the later bosses again are just repeats of older bosses, except, yeah, that's right, again, color swap. The game showed a bit of Breath of the Wild syndrome, with the red colored enemies being harder than the purple colored ones. Couldn't they just have made more original bosses and enemies instead of being a bit on the lazy side? Well, it's not a deal breaker, and like I said, the bosses are still fun to go up against and destroy, and if you do die on a boss, the penalty isn't that big, and usually you'll be prepared to go back and retry. Besides fights, you can sprint, perform roles, collect resources, plant seeds, if you're into gardening, and even build things like using a toolbox to fix restored, malfunctioned, or broken objects, like a broken lift for example, which you can then repair in order to move along in the main campaign. The different characters that you meet have a lot of charm and personality, and reading the on-screen text bubbles while hearing a bit of gibberish sound effects really put a smile on my face as these characters talk to each other, because it reminded me a lot about one of my favorite childhood games like Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64. I'm a sucker for these kind of things when it's used in video games, especially platformers or top-down adventure games. The graphics and presentation are wonderful here, and the sprite work is amazing and full of life. It felt like each area stood apart from the other areas, and I found myself just listening to the game's soundtrack while I was like washing the dishes or doing household chores, just to pass the time. And mix that in with the lovely relaxing soundtrack and you could get lost for hours just doing side activities or leveling up your items and completing daily chores. There's a museum you can visit in each community where you can fill out books by handing in resources, which I believe helps with searches or something, with unlocking different daily tasks. I don't know, I can't remember. I'm going based off memory here, as I didn't really complete the side quests, but I am aiming to now that I have more time to go back and finish all the extra content and post-game stuff. So yeah, there's that. There are a bunch of different stores and locations and NPCs hidden in the overworld, which are fun to run into as well. I mostly kept revisiting item shops where I could buy cosmetic, equipable hats and backpacks, which all look super cute on Little Concord as he fights through and explores the grove and completes his quest. This guy reminds me of Frog from Chrono Trigger, so he's my favorite character in the game. I hope we get DLC where we get to play as some of the other characters, which could explain what they were up to during the main story as you played as Concord. Actually, yeah, that would be a great idea. That's what they should do with the DLC. I think so anyways. Alright, so with all of that said, I know what you're asking. Is this game worth the investment? Absolutely it is. If you enjoy Zelda and Secret of Mana, or relaxing simulation style of games like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, then this is for you. The game's price tag of $20 Canadian isn't too steep, and yeah, the main story took me about 18 to 20 hours, as most of it was just me chilling and vibing, which is why this review took me a while to complete. But the main campaign felt just right, and I am content with the overall playtime, and there are a lot of activities and side quests still for me to complete, and even post-game content after you are finished the main campaign, which means that if you don't rush and take your time and you just enjoy the game at a slower pace, you'll be busy for a while, and this game becomes so addicting that you won't know where the hours in the day went. I absolutely recommend this game without a doubt. I believe there's a little bit of everything in this video game for all type of gamers to enjoy, and I hope this game gets noticed and becomes a smash indie title hit, and I can't wait to see what Picogram and Rose City Games have planned for the future, whether we get more DLC, a sequel, or another game from this studio. So please, play this game and spread the love. Thanks everybody for watching, and please hit the like button. Show me some love. Share this video with friends and family, and last but not least, smash the subscribe button for more content like top 5s and 10s and video game reviews. I appreciate the support. Much love. Until next time fam. Roguespirit signing out. Peace.